We will now continue with our panel discussion covering renewable energy. As mentioned, it's a very exciting topic in Mongolia. The title of the panel is Global Energy Transition with Focus on Opportunities in Mongolia. The session will be moderated by Mr. Jargalsaikhan Dambadarjaa, Chief Executive Officer of the Defacto Independent Research Institute, based in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. He brings extensive experience in energy research and policy analysis. Joining him on the panel are Ms. Sola Losendort, advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister of Government of Mongolia. She is a former advisor at the UK Cabinet Office's Infrastructure and Project Authority with an extensive sustainability and project finance expertise. Next, we have Ms. Ksenia Brockmann, Head of Green Financial Systems at EBRD. She covers Central Asia, Caucasus, and Turkey. She has over 20 years of experience in climate finance and ESG integration across multiple countries. And finally, we have Mr. Juan Pablo Garmendia, Senior Emerging Markets Analyst at StoneX Group. He's specialized in sovereign and corporate debt across frontier and high-yield markets. Let's now all invite our speakers to the stage.
Good morning. Very nice to be here. I'm somehow connected with the London Stock Exchange twice. 14 years ago, I had an interview with the CEO of this stock exchange, Mr. Xavier Rolla, and recently with Ayuna Nichaeva. Your program is tonight, by the way, on. Thank you. And 14 years ago, we have been talking about connection, not only the stock exchange, also business. And so happy to be and to moderate this important session this morning, because we talk about energy and we talk about global energy transition. So welcome to experts to this panel. And let's talk first about how Mongolia sees its role in energy transition, because it has abundant renewable energy sources and also critical minerals. From that perspective, I would like to ask Ms. Zola about how Mongolia sees its role in energy transition and what it takes. Say, what is your vision, say, Mongolia looks like by 2030 in that sense?
Great. Thank you for having me here. It's great to be back to St. Paul's. My background is in project finance in the banking sector, cover on the new market, actually, and I used to commute to St. Paul's 10 years every morning here, right? Yes, all my lunches around here, favorite places, so feel like a home here. And from last year, I have returned back to Mongolia to contribute to the Mongolia's energy transition to support our Deputy Prime Minister and his mission. And so, of course, now the energy sector is a key priority sector of Mongolia. As you may know, energy reform has been now going last year, led by our Deputy Prime Minister. The tariff has been, end-user tariff has been increased to establish attractiveness for the state-owned and private as well, energy sector players. And now Mongolia is, as you may know, is a mining economy. 80% of the commodities goes to Chinese market as an export. Actually, it's 80% of all Mongolia's export, right? So now Mongolia's vision aligned with the Vision 2050 is a national strategy plan till 2050 is to diversify our economy from the mining sector. To harness the renewable energy potential to be an energy export country, right? Yeah. So as you may know, Inner Mongolia, just across the borders, 100 kilometers from the South Gobi, is actually one of the most largest, one of the largest energy supply centers in China. And so we are now, and President Xi Jinping actually, and some Chinese studies now indicates that Chinese energy supply potential will increase by 3,000 gigawatts by 2030 and 4,500 by 2035. So Mongolia has a great potential to and opportunity to supply some part of it by renewable energy. So now, I think Prime Minister has mentioned that, Deputy Prime Minister has mentioned that we are now in the extensive studies with Aqua Power. The Saudi is one of the top world renewable energy developers on a comprehensive technical and economical studies of 10 gigawatts of renewable energy export to China. So these studies are showing commercial viability, interconnection to China. So this is a great message for international community that Mongolia can be a viable destination for energy export and top player in the Asia for the energy sector, right? So in terms of the energy strategy, I would like to divide it in three folds. So one is, of course, domestic market. Mongolia's electricity supply will be doubled by 2035. So from current 1.8 gigawatts to 4 gigawatts. So we are currently in the cooperation with multilaterals to upgrade the grid, and so we have now just signed 1 billion euro with the European Investment Bank last week, actually, to harness the renewable energy potential domestically, both domestically and export to China. We have 1 billion from EBRD as well. So also now the auction with other EDB, IFC is ongoing. So, and midterm is our strategy is to export to China and beyond, Korea, Japan. So by 2030, the success would be for us to start construction of the 10 gigawatts, or one of those aqua powered or state-owned Chinese utilities, and also Wingyang Group, Innovation has actually expressed interest. Each of these companies are doing own studies, right? So of course, and then third fold is to serve the global demand. We would like to also, we are studying green hydrogen, AI-based data centers, and off-grid solutions to sustain the mining growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With Aqua Power of Saudi Arabia, we, in fact, Mongolia had a preliminary agreement now, $10 billion investment in 10 gigawatt power of renewable energy combined with battery. So hopefully it will go on. And for detailed information, you can visit my website, jargalsdefacto.com, where you can see the full interview with Aqua Power Chairman Abonayan. So also these interviews I earlier mentioned, also there. So now we talk about the three strategies just now we have heard about, also including the off-grid power supply to mines, because it's a large country, many mines all around, the south in particular of the country. So this is another also issue in the agenda. So I'd like next question go to Juan. You have been investing in energy transition in the emerging markets. Could you compare this Mongolian story of the energy transition with other countries. It's compelling or not? Please.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. When I think about this topic and Mongolia, I see this as a unique situation, right? I think it's difficult to compare it because what is unique about Mongolia is the resources and the location, which I think not many other countries has and other places. So when we talk about the resources, I think the previous presentation was very good when we look at the Gobi region and the amount of solar days or days with sun that you have between 250 and 300, and then you have the potential for wind energy. That's difficult to find, and we can go through that. And on the second hand, you have the location, right? The geopolitical importance location. So situated between China and Russia make it just a unique place. And why is that? Is because you can, and I think we have been talking about this, you can export, right, the energy to China, which has this huge demand as being one of the biggest mineral producer country. And then on the other hand, you're still importing a certain percentage of energy from Russia. So when we think about that is, well, you still have local demand to take, right? And then you also need to substitute the fossil fuels that Mongolia in certain regions is using outside Ulaanbaatar. So I think there's a very compelling story here because you have local demand to attack, you have export to attack, you have mitigate some security risk from importing energy from Russia. You have a geopolitical importance place to become every time more separate from Russia again. So for me, that's a very, very compelling story that you don't see in other countries. Now, what concerns me, and I think that any investor here will think the same, is the political risk that we're seeing right now in Mongolia, right? And it's basically if there's going to be a change of government or not, and more importantly, if the targets for 2030 and 2050 are going to remain. Is this going to remain a priority for the government? Is this going to be a priority for investors? So that's one thing that concerns me a little bit. And also will be, if you want to become an export country, you also need the infrastructure, right? Which I think we're seeing already some changes, but there is still a long way to go. The grid, and again, we can go through many topics in particular, but overall is you need the proper infrastructure to export. You need the proper infrastructure also to provide energy outside Ulaanbaatar, which we don't have. And then you also have to assure investors that the policy remains and that their investment will be protected in the country.
Well, okay. Let us address this issue because it's agenda now. Today, the government, we don't know how long it will stay there. But you know what? I'm being a political observer for the last 20 years. And what's happening in Mongolia, I've had very positive because it's democracy. We talk about the quality of governance. There is not great quality. Issue of corruption, issue of many things, that the bad government can face or do face. That's why with this, even one ruling party, the largest party, inside we find factions which disclose many informations we otherwise didn't know. And it's great. We have to know one day because it's democracy. And the very fact that the discussion is going on now, it's all the way to the Constitution Court, says that is democracy. Whatever is outcome of the result of this whole things, Mongolia will be stronger because Mongolian people believe in democracy, in human rights. It would breed better change. 100% for sure. And plus we are in between two countries. To one you cannot go because sanction. To another one you can go but cannot speak. To Mongolia you can go and speak. That's why it works, I think. So it's good what's happening. I was in charge of Board of Foreign Investment of the country 20 years ago. And I was expecting this kind of transparency, true transparency. That's why I strongly believe, and whoever comes to the power, there will be for foreign direct investment, because there's no other way for this democratic, vibrant economy to go ahead. We don't have enough capital inside, so we attract outside capital, and we need to create conditions. I think we understand that more than before, and very deeply. Let's go further about to Ksenia. How to finance this kind of energy transition? How do the risk, and plus what would be financial structures that will secure investment at this time of a strong wind? So please still share your opinion, because you have been working more than 20 years in this field.
Thank you, and good morning. I'm so glad to be here and actually following this vibrant discussion. I represent a development bank, and the role of development banks is not to substitute the private sector. It's actually to bring partners together, to bring private capital, and be catalyst of change. And there are three fundamental instruments or ways that we work as development banks. One is policy dialogue. Governments change, reforms develop, but we are there to help governments and institutions to promote sustainable development. We provide technical support, technical advisory. We bring governments in different fora together to exchange knowledge, share experiences. Second important element is concessional finance. Being an MDB allows us to access climate funds. We work very closely with Green Climate Fund in Mongolia. The fund is providing finance, and we blend resources with resources of Green Climate Fund that we offer to local financial institutions, to key players in the Mongolian market. So there is already this established green finance channel that is available, and more concessional finance is out there to support renewable energy development. And last but not least, and for us it is the most important element, because we have bank in our name, is investments. We provide technical advisory, we engage in policy dialogue, but the fundamental change is achieved by actually investing in companies, in transformation of the markets, and we are on the ground. And my colleague Juan, who is head of our office in Mongolia, is available, has knowledge and vast experience and a skilled team to support any investor who is interested in the Mongolian market and comes and would like to co-invest together with the EBRD. And in terms of what instruments, what we need to boost further development of renewable energy in Mongolia or other green finance opportunities, here for us we see transition that has been happening over the past decade or so. We are moving away from project approach. We are moving to the platform thinking, where we would like to bring to the table multiple partners, government, private sector investors, multinational development banks, concessional finance providers, donors, academia, because the scale of opportunity is so vast that no single investor can address the change. And we are working with governments in multiple countries to establish country platforms that support green transition. For example, in Egypt, we established, together with support of the government and other MDBs, energy transition platform that will mobilize a $10 billion investments in renewable energy. We are looking at industrial decarbonization platform in Turkey, where we work with the Ministry of Industry. And in Central Asia, similar activities are currently ongoing, and we are really looking forward to working ever closer together. Second important point I wanted to make, and Zula mentioned it for me already, is auctioning. Energy auctions, renewable energy auctions, they really open and increase transparency for foreign investors to come to the country, to come to the market. It explains the rules of the market, the rules of the game. And we have been extremely successful, and we are really looking forward to support government of Mongolia in the auctioning process, and will be also playing an important role in this. And last but not least, and this is very close to my heart because I work with financial institutions in Mongolia, I would like to speak about energy and in connection to climate transition planning. Because while governments change, certain market developments slow down, there are barriers that were mentioned. Financial institutions are globally connected. And there is already now a market pressure for climate transition. And we are working with banks in Mongolia, like in other countries as well, to help them transition to climate resilient and sustainable approach to development, to investing. And this fundamentally includes climate risk management, aligning financial flows with objectives of the Paris Agreement, making sure that green projects are prioritized over brown projects. And we have been doing this work, and this is kind of capacity building, but more importantly, it is about good governance, good corporate governance in financial institutions, because this is what the markets are expecting today from the banks. Not just bold statement about decarbonization, but markets want to understand what exactly is being done and how robust is this transition planning pathway is, and what the banks are actually doing to implement. It's not only about share of green investment in the portfolio, it's about what each bank is doing to reduce climate risks in their portfolio, physical as well as transition risks. And this links back to the energy discussion that we were having.
Oh, great. So a new approach, more financial multi-institution, multi-development financial institutions together in cooperation with commercial each banks of the Mongolia, approaching also this climate risks. It's a great approach, I believe, and also with these big projects, the renewable energy auction is to come. And in that auction, I understand also yesterday we had some conversation at EBRD with Vice President, and this technology in particular, it's a new thing, huh? So we need to learn more, and most probably Mongolian government will request technical assistance in this regard, so that we have a time saved. So more professionals are to come to Mongolia, I think, in this sector. It's, I think, a great approach. Now let's talk about the issue of how long it will take time to start all this renewable energy. I mean, with this Aqua, which has I understand in the 14 countries, similar projects, some total almost 100 gigawatt capacity. They have created, and it's for a while number one now projects. And how long it will, Zola, you think it will take? How many years, and what are the ticket size to come to Mongolia?
Thank you. That's a great question. I've been directly working with Aqua Power for the past 6 months. And in my previous career, they were our clients building large-scale 2001 megawatts in Oman and others. So these multinational companies, they build in gigawatt size, right? So Aqua wants to build it tomorrow, right? So, and they have planned to already their feasibility study shows they would like to build it to 2026. Yeah. Now, of course, a number of challenges and G2G government dialogue needs to happen. And also the transmission line up to 100 kilowatts, direct transmission line needs to be built by so the transmission line discussion was also another um, item. I wouldn't say it obstacle, right? Another item. So, so who is going to build it? Is it going to build it by private sector or by Mongolian government and then charge fees? So it's not that Aqua doesn't want to build the transmission line. They are capable of building, and they have an option to build these transmission lines directed to their sites, right? And in normal circumstances, similar like 2, 4, 5 gigawatts of renewable energy, solar, both wind, can be built by market standard within 24 till 36 months, once all the approvals and G2G dialogue is finalized. Right? So Deputy Prime Minister has already mentioned we are in discussions with Chinese authorities on G2G import from Mongolia, right? Yeah, and then also in Mongolia, the sizes are at gigawatt size. So I've been to the site of 2.4 gigawatt, which was largest in China by 2019. Now they're building at 6 gigawatt size. So once all the circumstances would be completed, the construction is actually not an issue.
Well, if you can add to this point for this size of capacity, how long it takes time usually?
Look, the part I would like to add is what I have seen in other countries to do, right? Which is open it to the market. Like, just don't go with one player, just don't go with a couple of them. Government doesn't need to be involved. You can actually have an involvement of a development of the renewable energy sector with only private companies. What you do is basically what has happened in Turkey, India, Argentina, Mexico, any other country. You guarantee them the investment, right? How? Well, you can think about US link contracts, for example, right? Which they can be long term. They don't have to be, nobody would ask for a 2-3 years. It's a long term, 10 to 15-year project. People feel confident because they don't have to worry about the FX depreciation. And then what you do is you convince the market that there is a proper legal framework that protects their investments. And then I agree with you when you talk about the politics in Mongolia. I think it has advanced a lot. I think I actually believe that it's a very democratic country. Now, the second step would be, look, if you come and you build a 800 million, 1 billion energy plant here for 10, 15 years, it's going to be ring fenced, it's going to be protected, the state is not going to take over it. And that's how you build a renewable hub in Asia. And again, I think they have potential to do a lot more than their peers in the CIS region.
Okay. So long-term contract for like 15 or so years to buy the energy, right?
Because it takes time to develop the plans, right? So you need to raise money, go develop the plans, and then they would recover their investment in 10, 15 years.
So I hope whoever comes into the power in Mongolia, they should understand that size, that term, it's long-term project. So I think that's what we are talking today is also, it will be or is contributing to this deeper understanding, I think. Let's talk about grid connectivity, export route. And we are talking about China, then Japan, Korea. And then you said just now, Solar, that the Prime Minister was in several of these countries and have been discussing about these issues. So what are challenges now, and how do you see the routes and grid connectivity?
Yeah, so again, on the grid connectivity, I would like to divide it into the local market, local demand, supply, and cross-border. So this is separate interconnection lines. And for the Mongolian National Grid, I agree with Juan that the local grid is weak with its upgrade, right? So we are now working on the grid master plan. We had very good discussions yesterday, this EBRD, on the grid master plan, where exact locations of substations needs to be upgraded. Once that is done, the grid will be much more sustainable to absorb more renewable energy for the domestic market. So in terms of local grid, actually, Mongolia's the world capacity is currently 1.8 gigawatt. So by 2035 is going to be 4 gigawatt. In the size of Inner Mongolian developers, it's actually one company can build it, right? Yeah. So I don't really see really difficulty on this grid upgrade works once the master plan is done and sufficient financing is available, right? Yeah. So these short-term plans for the government to work with multilateral financing. And for the Chinese grid, I mean, for cross-border transactions is a separate topic of much higher voltage lines up to 1,000 kilowatts. So currently, both private sector and public sectors is studying which routes to be connected, which regions of China, who is the Chinese state-owned off-takers. And so these are our midterm. So starting from 2026, these studies will be finalized. Aqua has already finalized their study, so which includes the transmission lines.
So when the countries have different grid capacity, different frequency, how they get connected, what kind of problems, challenges they may face from the beginning? If there are any countries, this kind of grid connectivity challenges. Juan? Yep. Well, I mean, between two of you, it's just different connectivity of grids.
Grids?
Yeah.
That's a very technical. I don't really. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody here knows more than me than this topic.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I would like to say that I'm a bit better than engineer or bad engineer, right? Yeah. So, technical connectivity. So I think once that master plan, which we are working with multilateral, will be done, we will be able to identify the exact substations, right? Yeah. So, for example, at the moment, Mongolia's largest substations, which is Chur and Mandalwad, can absorb around up to 150 megawatts at once, right? So once the grid upgrades would be done, we will be able to increase at one location to 300 megawatts. So once that 300 megawatt size will be possible to realize, larger investors such as Aqua and Masdar, the other multinationals will be interested. Currently, unfortunately, because of grid weakness, these auctions, which now all the multilaterals are working, is between 20 till 100. Largest is 100, right? Yeah. So I think once the grid upgrade is done, we'll be able to attract multinationals to the auctions. But for the smaller size projects, we have enough interest from Asian mid-sized companies. I think in August we had an auction organized by EDB for 19 megawatt and with a large battery storage capacity, and we had interest from 40 Chinese companies.
I see. 40 Chinese companies were bidding. Okay. And I understand this, any size of renewable energy and its connection with the grid requires to have also a very quite high capacity battery. And I understand from our conversations here also included, we have met one UK company which is doing that battery capacity of different size. but that it shows that also we need that infrastructure too. So since we have a few minutes remaining, Ksenia, EBRD was working and is doing a lot of jobs through Central Asia. And you have done a lot of work already in Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries. What would you recommend or compare or advise us to start this work more efficiently? What kind of experiences we can learn from the case of Kazakhstan?
There are a few important points that Juan mentioned, and this is related to market-specific uncertainties in Mongolia. And to be able to scale up those investments quickly, there will be incremental costs. Combined with those market uncertainties would require additional sweetener for the investors to offset those additional costs or de-risk those investments. And this means we would need concessional finance, blended concessional finance to play a role. And this requires time. This requires time to convince climate funds, other donor providers, philanthropists to give those resources to the country. And here I come to the second important point, which is only when investors and development banks and private sector companies and the government all work together, this is when those global donors are convinced that there is a long-term strategy behind. And this is where we would definitely need continued country leadership and ourselves, other MDBs and private sector investors. We are on standby to help as much as we can. And last but not least, it's also about the consensus. We need to come to a conclusion and have ambitious yet feasible plan of investments. The size of the challenge requires technologies to be brought to the country. But not only technologies, we need human capital capacity of local population to be there, available to work in those newly created industries. We would need to upskill population, young generation. Deputy Prime Minister spoke, this is a young country. We would need to bring this knowledge. And here I come back to the financial institutions that I love, is that financial institutions, they are represented with their branches across the country. They are not only in the capital city, we have branches of financial institutions, and we could use collectively banks, microfinance institutions as conduit for delivery of finance, for delivery of knowledge, and delivery of technologies. Also, small-scale, decentralized renewables can make a huge difference. And we should not forget about those smaller scale investments that fundamentally can deliver impact for population of the country.
Very interesting, important comment, in particular to address the issue with incorporation of population, local people, to address it. Start with the smaller projects, renewable projects. In fact, it is kind of started in Mongolia. And I think slowly the knowledge and the importance of this renewable energy, which is very friendly, climate friendly, green energy is very important, I think. So closing, I'll ask Pang one question. If you will advise the government of Mongolia or the people of Mongolia, one advice to develop in the right direction all these projects, what would it be?
And I think it was just mentioned the young population and the young bright minds, right? Because when I was looking at this, and I think I always thought like, stop the imports, increase exports, right? And then I was chatting with young colleagues from Golden Bank, and they were saying, let's build Mongolia, let's do it the Asia backup of clean energy. Let's develop data centers, a data cloud, and that's things that I never thought about, right? I never thought that was actually something to do in Mongolia. So I was fascinated to hear that the young people want to look at Mongolia as a potential for in Asia, and I just don't want to stock on, I want to reduce the imports and increase the exports. I want to become relevant in the region. So my advice would be, listen to these new ideas, listen to these people, and why not, right?
Great part. Thank you. I think it's much better to have big ambitions and then the smaller ambitions. So that's what we are doing here. And it is, I think our panel was important to have into consideration certain points. And all of you also have sort of own ideas on that. And we all together, I can make Mongolia renewable energy a good country. Thank you very much, my panel. And thank you very much, Urs.